Hi, my name is Hans Eriksson, and welcome to part 3 of my photogrammetry tutorial, where I am taking cultural historical objects that I have scanned, and uh, and my end result is I want to be able to put this into a 3D application software so that it can be used in uh, different applications. In my case, I want to use it for both augmented and virtual reality. So let's go ahead and get started. If you remember, first of all, let me say I'm using Blender, which is my 3D authoring software. It's totally free. You can use it for commercial and non-commercial uses and has some amazing plugins that I can use with it that just makes everything so much easier. So to kind of showcase that, if you go to a browser and you go to blender.org, you can see where you can download the latest version of Blender. You can just click download Blender, and of course right now there we go, and then download Blender, and it comes in Mac OS, Linux, and Windows. So download it, open it up, install it, use it. It's free. Okay, so I want to, if you remember, uh, that Mushroom had created this folder, Mushroom Cache. If I open that up, go to texturing, and then open up this little folder here, you can see that I have an OBJ file there. So let me come over here. I'm going to go File, Import, and I want to use Wavefrontobj, and I'm going to go to this folder here and Mushroom Cache texturing, click that folder, and there's my OBJ, and I'm going to bring it in. Okay, if you notice right here, it didn't put it in where I want it. I want it right in this zero space here, but I also have some artifacts in here. And if you remember, I told you that these artifacts were more than likely caused by the shadowing that I had in there. So what I'm going to do is, with it selected, I'm going to hit Tab on my board and double A to deselect all of the vertices. I'm going to hit Z on my keyboard to go to wireframe, and I'm going to just box select that, shift box select this, and box select here. I'm going to hit X on my keyboard and delete vertices. Now I can single click here, hit L on my keyboard to select everything there, and hit X and deselect vertices. Okay, I have a pretty clean mesh now. I'm going to go into object mode, and I'm going to go ahead and get out of solid or wireframe mode, and I can do that by hitting Z and then solid. Right now my origin is sitting way over here, and I want it to be in my mesh, so let's go ahead and take care of that real quick. I'm going to go to Object, Set Origin to Geometry. Okay, the next thing, if I kind of straighten up here a little bit, well, let's do this. Let's now hit, now my cursor is still set at the center of origin there, so I can now go Shift S, and I can go Selection to Cursor, and bingo, it pops it right over there, exactly where I wanted it. If I hit 1 on my keyboard, that'll put me into front view, and I can then hit, let me see, I want to go into edit mode by hitting tab. Click A once, and now I'm in edit mode, and I want to rotate this, kind of straighten it up a little bit. There we go. And then G and Z to move it on the Z-axis. And let me rotate this again just a little bit. Go G and Z to move it down so that it's sitting right about there. Okay, if I go 3 on my board, well actually let's go 7 to do a top view. This is the front of it, so I can go rotate and kind of spin that around so it's facing a little more towards the front. And then I can go 3 and do a side view and hit rotate and kind of straighten it up there as well. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just a little more presentable. I'll hit tab on my keyboard to get into object mode, and you'll see that my location is right down here, or my origin, and I'm sitting pretty much exactly the way that I want it. Yeah, that will work. Okay, this particular mesh right now, though, is actually pretty high in density. It's sitting at 137 faces, and that's way too much for me to be trying to put this into a game engine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to rename this to Nazgure, Figure, female. There we go. And with it selected, I'm going to hit Shift D, and I've just made a duplicate, and I want them directly over each other, except I'm going to take this one and I'm going to call this, I'm going to kind of back some of that out and do an underscore low, and I'm going to take this one and I'm going to do an underscore high, so that this is going to be my high resolution and this is going to be my low resolution. However, at the moment, if I select my low resolution, you can see that it still has 137 faces, which again I said is way too high. So to fix that, I'm going to hit N on my keyboard, and I've installed a couple of plugins which I can show you how to get at a later date, but it's called Tessellator, and I want to do what's called a particle remesh. Now it's set to quads, particle remesh. I'm just going to click this and watch it do its thing. Pretty amazing stuff here. It's tessellating it, and it is now redone the topology on it, and now it only has 10,550 faces. Big improvement. And the only other thing I have to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to Object, and I'm going to, where is it here? Oh, Shade Smooth. And there we go. Now it's whoops, it's looking a lot better. It's smoother. Okay, right now this object is sharing the same texture space, but if you'll notice, it probably doesn't look very good if I go ahead and enable it so that we can see what the textures look like. The high has all these beautiful textures on it, and I'm going to turn off that visibility, turn on the visibility for the low, and it doesn't. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to create a new UV layout for the low. So let me go to UV editing and hit A on my keyboard to select everything. And if I go to U, I'm going to use Smart UV Project. Just quick and dirty, but it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to select the defaults, and you can see right now I have a brand new UV layout. Now the problem is the color maps are being shared right now between the two meshes. So that's not really going to work for me. Let me zoom that over. You can see how the color maps are kind of coming into view there. So I need to go to my material here, and with my low selected, I'm going to have to get rid of this material. So I'm going to just get rid of it. I'm going to hit for a new material, and I'm going to call this Noskin, Figure, female, underscore matte. And there I go. Now I got a new material in there, but I need to also hook up a new texture to that. So I'm going to go to my shading tab here, hit one on my keyboard so that I'm facing towards the front. I'm going to kind of move him way up there and increase my texturing space. There we go. And I'm going to kind of move this stuff over here a little bit so that we can see the UV layouts here a little better. I'm going to take this and kind of move it over there. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to go add texture and image texture and click new, and I'm going to call this Noskin figure female and underscore color, because I want it to be a color map. I want to increase the resolution to 2048 by 2048. Since this is going to be a diffuse, I really don't need the alpha in there, and I don't need to make it 32-bit float. If I click OK, I can come over here now, and there's my Nows configure color, and it's a blank texture. I can then feed this into my base color, and you can see that it's picked up the wonderful black texture space here. So now all I need to do is I'm going to slip over here to this tab here, my rendering tab, and I'm going to, well, no, excuse me, I got to go to here. I'm going to change the render engine to cycles, and then under the bake, I'm going to change it from combined to diffuse. Now, I don't have any lights in the scene, and I don't want any influence of lighting in here. I don't want the direct or the indirect, so I'm just going to switch this off, and I only want to be influenced by the color. I'm going to hit selected to active, expand this, and the ray distance I'm going to change to 0.1. Everything else is just fine. I'm going to re-enable my HiMesh, and I'm going to select the HiMesh, and you can see that it's using that old texture space. And then I'm going to control click the low mesh, and I'm set to go. I've changed my ray distance. Everything's good to go. I'm set on color, on diffuse. Hit the bake button, and it is starting the process, and you can see it's sitting at about 12-15% right now. It actually goes pretty quick. So let's let that calculate for a few seconds, and we will get that texture. I know it's kind of boring just watching a bar go across, but pretty well done, and there it is. Now I've got this beautiful color texture that has been transferred over, and if I disable the HiMesh, you can see that there I've got a nice color map onto my low resolution figure. The only problem now is I eventually want to put this figure into Substance Painter and Substance Alchemist to make a full-blown material out of it, because I'm going to want my diffuse color. To do that, because I need to do a roughness and a height map, and to have that, uh, I'm going to have to produce a normal map as well. Plus, the low resolution has lost some of the detail from the high resolution, so I want to bring that across as well. So to do that, I'm going to re-enable my high. I'm going to hit my low or my high, control click my low, and I need to add another texture. I'll go to image texture. I'll also do a vector, a normal map vector, hook that up to the color, hook this up to the normal, and I'm going to click new, and I'm going to call this Nazcan F-I-G-U-R figure female, and I'm going to call it a norm map. There we go. This time I am going to enable the 32-bit float to give me a little more resolution on it. I'm not going to need the alpha, and I'm just going to hit OK. Again, I don't want it to be a repeat, so I'm going to go to a clip, and I'm good to go. You can see that this automatically was an sRGB, and this is set to linear, exactly the way it needs to go. So I'm just going to go over here, and I'm going to open up my normal map so that you can see it right now. These are selected correctly. I'm going to change my diffuse to normal. Everything else is set up exactly the way that I want. So all I have to do is now hit bake. And the bake for that is actually pretty darn fast. And you can see that I now have a normal map bake for my image here. So let's take a look and see how they look side by side. Well, first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and file, and I'm going to save my whole deal here. Let me come over here, Photogrammetry, and I'm going to hit Nazcan figure female, and I'm going to save that Blender file. And the only other thing now I want to do is I want to save out these textures. So to do that, let me go to here, and I think I can go to UV editing. There we go. And this is my normal map, and I'm going to deselect my high map here, and there we go. If I go into object mode there, I can then go image, and I'm going to go save, and I'm going to go ahead and save it as a PNG for right now. But the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it TEXTURE textures, and I'm going to save my normal. I didn't have an alpha, so the RGBA is just fine, and I'm going to go save as image. And then I need to open up my color map as well, and I'm going to go image, save, and everything's great there, so I can save that. Okay, I have both of those saved. I'm looking rather good. Let's do a side-by-side on it to just see how everything looks. So I'm going to go to my Layout tab here. I'm going to enable both of them. I'm going to take my low, and by hitting G and move it on the X axis, I'm going to move this little guy over here. I'm going to grab the high, hit G and X to move it on the X axis and move it over here. And you can see that I have a pretty amazing uh, transfer of both my color map and my normal map, and I'm pretty much good to go. Everything's looking good. So the next step will be going into uh, Substance Alchemist and creating a uh, material to import into Substance Painter, and from there I can take it into Unreal and put it into virtual space. So with that, I'm going to end this part, and I'll see you in the next recording.